Hello, hello, hello. Greetings to you once again, and many thanks for joining us on one of your favorite program, Regnum Continuous Legal Education. And of course, this is a program that, as an adult, as an individual, whether you're young or old, you have to stay glued to your TV set, because in this or on this program we look at legal issues that will help to build you as a person, protect your right as an individual, give you more legal frameworks to understand your personality wherever you find yourself, so that you can protect yourself very well in your environment. I am Peace Smith, reaching out to you on Star-Crossed Television, and of course, you know how we do it in this program. We do look at interesting topics, and we have resource persons, should I say intelligent, erudite resource persons, who are always joining us on this program to discuss some of these legal issues with us. So stay glued to your TV set. When we're right back, I will be introducing my topic and of course our guests for this episode. Don't go anywhere, stay. Welcome back. You're watching the program Regnum Continuous Legal Education, showing on Star-Crossed Television. Yes, it is a 20th. I hope you can actually show for that and say, yeah, God, I'm grateful. I'm thankful to Thee for making me. I'm grateful. I'm thankful to Thee for making me achieve this and this. If not, at least just thank God for the life you're living. I think that is much more priceless than everything. So congratulations once again for seeing the month of June, which is just a day around the corner. Yes, for this episode, our topic we will be looking at is tax collection, tithing, and the law. So we'll be looking at it, whether should this be considered as a fraud, or is it patriotism or an act of faith. So you wouldn't want to miss this episode. It's a very juicy one. So make sure you grab a pen, grab a paper, because we will be discussing everything about tax, everything about tithe. So you would also have to know whether it's, when you're talking about tithe, is it an act of faith? When you're talking about tax, is it fraud, or it is what you have to do as a citizen in a country or a state? So to join us on this episode for this discussion, let's start with the brother right here in the studio with me, His Grace Archbishop Justice Ahakwo. Good to. All right, so like I said, on this episode we will be looking at the topic tax collection, tithing, and the law. Is it a fraud, patriotism, or an act of faith?
It simply means a mandatory financial charge that an individual or a corporate organization must pay to the government. In other words, it is a financial obligation that the individual or the business entity or establishment owes the government, and that charge is based on certain percentage depending on the laws that had been promulgated to regulate the tax payment. So it is an obligation that once you pay, it becomes a fund that will be used to construct or provide utilities for the citizens. So it is a social contract and an obligation that individuals of adult age and business establishments owe the government.
Okay, is this definition as defined under the law terms, or
yes,
is it a general definition?
It's a general definition, and that is the background or the basis for other laws, regulatory laws to enforce payment of tax. It's just a general definition of what tax is.
Okay,
and it's a global one.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, His Grace. Now let's get to understand what is tithe. At least let's have a clear definition of all the the terms that we are going to be talking about. So let me bring Christ Ambassador Oji to the discussion. Please, sir, what is tithe? When someone says tithe, what is it?
Tax.
Tithe. Except you want to still add to what Brother Justice said about tax.
Yes,
I wanted to talk about a bit about payment of tax.
You see, tax itself is the actual formation of a state. If you watch what tax is, maybe probably because in Nigeria we don't pay tax, we would have understood that tax goes beyond the mere payment of money to government. Though it's an obligation, it's a legal obligation. It also confers on the citizenry a right to ask for accountability, a right for you to hold the government responsible for any act. It's just not just the money you paid. It goes beyond the money you have paid. It's a legal obligation, not just ordinary obligation. You owe it to government to give a part of your money to government for them to use in maintaining public goods and services. So it's not just what we see it to be, just removing money and paying. As you pay, it goes beyond that money. It commits you to the government, it commits you to the programs of government and gives you a right to ask for accountability. That is what tax is, not just the mere payment of the money. Now let me go into issue of tithe. Tithe on the other side is a bundle of moral obligation. Is not just religious because we pay it to church, but I think beyond also paying to church, it also goes into the person who is paying. What do you believe? Why are you paying? So tithe is paid to God, now not to government, but a moral obligation owed to God, presumably anyway, because we say tithe is to God. Meanwhile, we pay it to churches where man administers. So the difference is just that this one is a moral obligation, tax is a legal obligation, while you pay this one morally out of what your conscience wants you to do. You don't have nobody punishes you when you don't pay. But meanwhile, under tax, if you don't pay tax, government can hold you responsible and punish you. So that is what makes that. I think that's a bit difference between the two. Tithe is just moral obligation
Okay.
you owe to pay to a supreme body. I think that's my contribution for now.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, thank you so much, sir. I love the fact, or should I, on what you said, presumably, sometimes, even if it's men that is, at the top of affairs in the church. But we'll still get to that. We'll still get to that. So now let's look at some of the legal frameworks that, when we are talking about tax, what are those legal frameworks that actually backs up, tax in terms of payment by citizens?
Well, tax, we have tax is paid to the three tiers of government. When I say three tiers of government, we're talking about the federal government, talking about the state, we're talking about the local government. These different levels of government collect tax. And by our law, by our constitution, the constitution divides powers, divides function between the federal, the state, and the local government. And so there are levels of also collection of taxes. It's not just, there is one the federal government collects. And why federal government collects those ones simply is because the constitution under the exclusive list, that what we call the legislative list of government. In that legislative list, what the federal government will do are listed. The functions and the powers of local government of the federal government are listed on the exclusive list. That exclusive list, state has no power to make law on any item on those lists. Now, there's another list we call concurrent list. The concurrent list is a list where the state and the federal government have powers to make law on. Now when you now go to Section 7 and Schedule 4 of the Constitution, that's where we have establishment of the local government and the functions of the local government. So the Schedule 4 too, that gives the local government functions, also itemize areas where local government will take their own levies and tax, and particularly what they call radio and all those. There are taxes the local government collect. Now, when you go to federal government also has taxes it collects, which includes what they call petroleum tax, company tax, capital gain tax. In fact, recently, what the federal government has done is just to harmonize these taxes
The
and now
reform.
spread them out. Who collects what and what belongs to any of the level of government. But I think I want to also emphasize on one area. The Constitution, after itemizing the functions and the rights to collect tax, there was one the Constitution omitted, what they call VAT. But now I understand that federal government is pushing to take VAT. Now, VAT ordinarily is not either in the exclusive list or concurrent list. When any item it is not in the exclusive list, it's not also in the concurrent list. What it then means is that it's a residual matter. And being a residual matter, but I don't know whether it was a mission by the people that made the constitution. I think those are for now. This is the area.
Okay.
Talking about legal framework of tax.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I think it's great that you have one or two to add to that.
Of course, I should, because of the reforms that were introduced by the current administration headed by President Tinubu sometime in October 2024.
Okay. You mean the current Bola Ahmed?
Yes,
Okay.
Tinubu, yes, the current civilian administration. The president was driven to constitute a committee, a presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms. And that committee came up with very brilliant bills. That's sometime in October 2024, and presented 4 bills, for that matter, presented to the National Assembly, which in January was passed into law. The Nigerian Tax Bill,
Okay.
the Nigerian Tax Administrative Bill, Joint Revenue Bill, and Nigeria Revenue Service Bill. They are all laws operational at the moment. And what the policy, the Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee aimed at curing the defect of burdensomeness on individuals and business owners. It also, in its bid to introduce these laws, try to ease out the multi-layered taxation on individuals and companies. So
Okay.
that reform had set the pace for Nigerians to have a sign of relief where double taxations and all of that. My colleague Oji has just mentioned that 3 tiers of government, from the federal down to the local government, have the right to legislate and pass into laws tax reforms or tax policies to enable them act in accordance with the Constitution. So if, for instance, there is a local government law that says you pay revenue, you pay tax at certain level of doing your business in Cross River State, and in that same framework, the state government is asking the same business owner to do the same. So the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration had come up with these laws to regulate and eliminate this burdensome on the people. And one other good thing about these laws is that individuals, that is the personal income tax now, if you're not earning a certain amount from 800,000 and above, you are exempt from paying tax.
Currently,
That is the position of the law.
Okay.
So you are exempt from paying tax. That is the beauty of it.
Okay.
And to a large extent, the reforms also had set aside the withholding tax. The withholding tax. It created some uproar. Some state governors, especially from the northern part of Nigeria, were against these reforms as at last year. But so far so good. That is the position of the law, and we are yet to see the effective implementation of these laws.
So now I understand that when you're talking about the Value Added Tax Act, it looks at, mobilizing payments on goods,
Yes.
So now, how does this really affect the majority whose business really does not maybe give them from that 800 and above in terms of, should I say income rate or?
Yes, personal income,
yes, personal
tax.
income rate. So
Yes.
how does this value added tax, knowing what it stands for, so how does it affect the individuals who are doing businesses?
Another
Small,
good thing,
medium businesses,
yes,
that sort of thing.
another good aspect of the law, the current law, the prevailing law, the instant law, is that those of the business entrepreneurs that are of
Income
low
derivation.
yes, the businesses that does not have so much of capital, high capitals, they run at very low scale. Those involved in that business aspect are also exempt from paying that value added tax.
Okay.
What the president intends or had achieved so far by passing those bills into law is to relieve or to bring to a large extent reliefs to individuals and business owners so that the economy will not be so tight on them to operate.
Okay, so before this law, this tax reform by this new administration, let's look at in a country where things are not working, do you think it's still right for its citizens to keep paying tax? Let's look at that before the emergence of this new tax reform that is ongoing right now. So before then, and looking at the situation of the country now, even if someone who is earning 100,000 is not actually helping, sorry about that, helping the person's situation. So now looking at a country which is not actually movable, but then its citizens is still paying tax. Do you still conform to that?
Of course, the presidency had constituted for himself a team of experts, economic experts, having taken out the oil subsidy, which more or less was a big issue, and it has created a lot of hardship for the Nigerian citizens and those even coming in to do business. So the tax reforms or fiscal policy and tax reforms committee have done a very good job to ameliorate that hardship, that suffering. Of course, there is need for everybody to pay tax. We have traveled.
So in a country, sorry sir, I
Yes.
feel you're not getting my question
Yes.
rightly. So in a country where things are not working,
That is what
for example, you talked about this tax being used to,
Yes.
whatever that is being derived from it, you have to build roads, build hospitals, make sure that all the basic amenities are available. So in a country where these things are not forthcoming, there's no accountability, but the citizens are still being urged to pay tax. I don't mean now that, because you are running a small scale business, don't pay tax. Do you understand? I mean then, let's put it then, and even now that even the 800,000 you're talking about, some it might not even go a long way helping a family of 10 and all of that. So do you still think that citizens should pay tax?
That is where I'm arriving at.
Okay.
Your question, I had to give reason, taking Nigeria as a reference point.
Okay.
Things are getting worse. The economy is biting. Hardship is just over everybody. Nobody is exempt from it. So the government of the day had deemed it necessary to use an aspect of the economy, which is this fuel subsidy, which they have removed, to plow it back into the system, relieving us from paying tax.
Okay.
Whatever tax you want to come under, whether it is personal income tax, whether it's company income tax, whether it's value added tax, just name them. Now, the beauty of governance, democracy, gives room for alternatives.
Okay.
even if where you are paying your tax and it is not properly utilized by providing uh, the basic amenities for one to live, the right to shelter, water, power, good roads, food. I mean, when a government is not up to their responsibilities, then it becomes a problem. The payment of tax will not be as efficient and prudently managed. You will see a fight back. There will be a resistance from the people. The people will definitely ask, what have you done with our tax being paid? And once they are not seeing result, like my brother rightly mentioned, that tax goes beyond paying, that you have the right to also ask for accountability. This money I've paid, what have you used it for? We don't have good roads, we don't have food. So it is on the part of the people, as I have earlier said, and rightly so, payment of tax is a social contract.
Okay.